How you doing, sir?
Oh, just fine, thank you. And how are you?
I'm doing outstanding. So today, we want to talk about yourself pushed out. And, of course, under that umbrella, we were talking about some other things, but really want to discuss questions pertaining to yourself pushed out. What are your thoughts on that?
Everything on the without is a thought. Everything. It's all the self pushed out. So you're making your world moment by moment, thought by thought. What are you thinking about? Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. So since we're making our moment thought by thought, since thought is the building block, what do you suggest to those who are thinking and building their moment by moment?
Check your blocks. Well, if that's what you're building your wall out of, you check your blocks, because that's what you're doing. You're at every word. Understand, every word we're told must be accounted for. So they are your building blocks. What kind of a world are you building? And all you have to do to answer that question, what are you talking to yourself about? What are you suggesting to yourself? That's all you need to know. And if you do know, and you'll decide this is lovely and of good report, or this is not worthy of my attention, because that's what you're looking for, what's worthy of your attention to think upon. Think of it that way. When you say that, good way?
I would. So the individual dealing with conflict, and they're looking at those that they're in conflict with, how does that apply to yourself pushed out? Am I causing the conflict that I'm experiencing?
If you're involved in it, you're involved. You got a part in it if you're involved. So if you're doing your part right, maybe the other will take a hint from that. Look, mood is what most people walk around in. But there's no guarantee that it's a lovely mood. And so you kind of have to approach people gently, let's say. Because if you don't, their shields are going to go up immediately. You know what I mean?
I do.
And then once the shields go up, well, then the negotiation is over. That's it. You don't really get to make your point. And so you have to gently move into these states that you decide you want to be involved in. Look, what is it? It's all attitude, isn't it?
It is.
Well, but then all you have to do is just check your attitude about how you feel generally about what you're thinking about, because that's what you're going to be experiencing. Yeah, I mean, I say it every time I can remember to do so. You're always thinking ahead of the evidence that you're experiencing. And in that time, you can decide differently. That's what you're told to do. Change your mind, change your world. That's what you wanted to do. That's how you do it. And it isn't difficult, but look, let's face it. The one thing that you really got to be face up with is that you have to exert your power to move yourself, move your world, focus to get a sense of the relative to your goal, dream. What has your attention, has your life. And that's how simple it is. And if you'll keep it that simple, you'll probably remember it. Otherwise, it'll just be something else that you can't remember. And I know about that. I know about that increasingly now.
Me too.
Oh, what are you talking about? You're just a kid.
I still have my moments where did I put that thing again? Where did I set that? So yeah. And, the thing is, once I kind of just relax, it's funny, the things that come to you by way of subconscious mind, but it's me when I'm forcing it, trying to make myself remember, then I don't. Yeah. But when I let go, it comes to me.
Yeah, that's, like I said, you stroll in or you don't get it. That's the method. And look, I'll tell you right now, that the hardest thing it is to do is just to be patient with yourself. I would say that is number one on your list of change your mind and change your world. It's just be patient with yourself enough to see what your mood is, what you're thinking about. Because, like I said, you're thinking ahead of your evidence, and that is the thinking that you're doing right now. You're on all the time. You see, that's another thing that people don't really understand too much, but you're actually on all the time. And like I said, every word must be accounted for. What are you saying to yourself? What are you suggesting to yourself? And I know I repeat this over and over, but you got to get the basics before the rest of it won't make any sense to you. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I want to go back to, you were talking about attitude, especially when we're talking about yourself pushed out. I was in a Facebook group recently, and the question that I posed was, in attracting your significant other, is it possible to attract somebody that was toxic into your life? And of course the answer is yes. But many of us don't understand the role that attitude plays when we're trying to attract that ideal person into our lives. Many of us have sour attitudes, but yet we think that we're going to attract Prince Charming or, the Snow White, whomever, and we don't look at our own attitude. We think that we can manifest anything we want and it be pleasant and of good report, and yet we have a sour attitude. Is that possible?
If you've got a rotten attitude, that's exactly what you're going to find. Rotten attitude. Train yourself to sit in the silence and contemplate on what you're thinking about, to see, is that where I want to go? Is that actually leading me where I want to go? Look, whatever problem you're faced with, what is your attitude about it? See, can you change your attitude about it? That's the question, because attitude is what's driving you, along with desire. And desire is meant to be satisfied. And it can be. All you have to do is monitor your own thinking and feeling and see where you're leading yourself. That's all you really need to do to actually get your life straightened out. Because that's what it is. It's going a little here and a little there, this side and that side, and maybe you have a great difficulty in really making up your mind, because I know I sure did. Because that's it. The double-minded man can expect nothing, and that's what he gets. Not what he wants, because what you want is saying you don't have it. And that's where the self thing pushed out comes in. You're actually pushing out into your world of experiencing ahead of the experiencing by thinking. Thinking makes it so. It's as simple as that. If you're in control of your thinking, if you're claiming what you're thinking, well, then you're okay. If you're not, well, you get whatever's going on. And that's it. If just going along with what's going on is okay, well, fine. Because there's an awful lot of people living on that slate right there. Wouldn't you say?
I would. So going back to attitude awareness, and imaginational control. So having a bad attitude, more than likely, what kind of person are we going to attract with a negative attitude?
Yeah, that's it. It's the self pushed out. That's what you're looking for. And what you're looking for is looking for you. And if you've got a rotten attitude, that's exactly what you're going to find. rotten attitude, because words are a vibration, and they're looking for like vibrations. You see, so you're actually looking for what you don't want if you're not paying attention. And if you're paying attention, then you're choosing your next thought. And then you just don't stop. You just keep choosing your next thought. Because if you don't choose it, you're going to have it anyway, and it may not be lovely and of good report. Because that's what we're told to do. Think only on things that are lovely and of good report, and as you think you are, that's it. It's that simple, isn't it?
It is. It is. So speaking of lovely and good report, today we got a lot of things going on globally. And one of the people in the group reached out to me and said, DeCarlo, right now, and I'm in a place right now where there's a lot of people who are dying and who are sick. And I told her not to judge according to appearance, but get in her mind's eye the world that she wanted to see.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's it. You see, the thing of it is that there's so many people that are praying to God to do the thing he can't do. And there is something he can't do. He can't go against his own word. And he gave you choose this day. And as long as you're the one choosing, that's what you're facing, experiencing, ramifications, trade-offs, whatever you want to call it. But that you're making your own world, the self pushed out. That's the story. They themselves are makers of themselves. That's right out of Scripture. We're not trying to tell you we made anything up. I didn't make anything up at all. This is all just a revelation to me, and I'm sharing it with you. That's all there is to it. You get the message. You follow the message. It's your own message. I didn't make it up. I got it right where you can find it for yourself in the Scriptures. Attitude, awareness, and imaginational control will solve all your problems if you can get it under control. And the only thing you need to do that is patience. Learn to be patient with yourself. I know it was the most difficult thing I ever did was just to be patient long enough to get a benefit. Because once you get a benefit, then you're going to do it easier the next time. And so on and so on and so on. And as you grow, you outgrow. That's what people tell me. Well, okay, that's not technically correct because what it is, you're awakening. Each little thing you add to the plus side, you're awakening. Think on things that are lovely and of good report. Why not? Doesn't cost you anything. Nobody has to know what you're doing. You're not obligated to tell anybody anything. And like I said, at first, it's not really a wise idea. Wouldn't you say?
I would. I actually like that. I want to touch on that briefly. First of all, I've often hear people, they say, listen, DeCarlo, Mr. Lindell, I'm in an environment, and it's only me thinking this way. And how do I stay on track? So what do you say to the person that they're the only one in their household that's processing this, and mass mind media is basically hitting them time after time with negative press, negative media? What do you say to that person?
Even the family.
Even the family.
Even those closest to you. But that should not deter you in any way because you're an individual. And that's what you will always be is an individual. And actually you ought to try practicing it a while. It really isn't that bad. Attitude. Haven't you heard your attitudes either make you or break you? I mean, I'm sure everyone has heard that at some time or another. And that's absolutely true. Your attitudes do make you or break. And the thing of it is that it happens automatically. You see, because when you make mindsets operate automatically. When a situation arises and you have a mindset for it, it jumps right in. And you really won't maybe even have any idea of it. But it will work. as it is programmed to do, and that's what you want to do. You want to see what it is that you're programming. Because you could probably program hell on earth. I mean, that's what we're told to do, is to bring heaven on earth. If it's not heaven on earth now, what is it? And I tell you, most of the world would tell you it is hell on earth. You're given to choose this day. What are you choosing? Your thinking makes it so. What are you choosing? That's the question, wouldn't you say?
I would say. And you were stating earlier, sometimes when you're in the process, when you're manifesting your world, hell no, man. A lot of times what happens is we want to tell these truths to people who are not ready. And a lot of times what we need to be doing is really showing them the benefits of these truths. Would you agree?
That's it. Sure. That's it. In other words, the thing that we're telling them now is not being told to them by the church. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
I mean, they're not being told this because it makes them independent of their idea of church. You are the church. The individual is the church, the temple of the living God. Why not visit? He offered you over and over an invitation. You turn to me, I'll turn to you. If God turns to you, what would be your problem? I mean, what problem would you have if God is on your side? And he is. But you're not moving to test him on your side. And he is. I'm with you always, will never leave you. Omnipresence. What more do you need to know? I mean, really, that is the question, isn't it?
It is a question. And I like that you made mention of one of the things that organized religion doesn't want you to be is independent of organized religion. Our goal is not to have you depend upon us. Our goal is to have you learn self-dependence. Would you agree?
That's it. Absolutely. That's what it is. And until it gets to that, there's no real self-experience of that. Wouldn't you say?
I would.
I mean, you're denying yourself. All denial, we're told, is self-denial. Why would you continue to deny yourself the lovely and of good report when you're told to think only on that? And as you think, you are. I mean, it's really spelled out very, very simply, but we become so involved, so in the world. We're told to be in the world, but not to be of the world. And we're so of the world that we lose ourselves into the world's idea of how things should be. That's man's mind reasoning. But man mind reasoning and God mind reasoning is altogether different. Your spirit. That's what you want to remember. You are spirit. This is what you're doing. It isn't who you are. The name that you carry and whatever it is you're doing, that's just what you're doing. But that isn't who you are. Attitude, awareness, and imaginational control will point it out to you very plainly as you think you are. That's it, isn't it?
It is it. You said you made a distinction between man's thinking and God's thinking. When you're in the world, you got the mindset of the world. And you're trying to manifest with that mindset, and you're wondering why it's not working.
That's it.
But when you step outside and you understand that I and Father are one, you take on the mind of God. Yes. And God says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. Would you agree?
That's it. That's why you're asking him. That's why you're told you receive not because you ask not. That seems very simple thing to solve, wouldn't it? I mean,
it does.
I mean, you receive not because you ask not. What are you doing when you're asking? You see, you're feeling that you don't have and you're asking for. That's once. Then your prayer is answered. That's it. If you don't stand with that idea, then you lose it. And it's right there with you all the time. I'm with you always. I will never leave you. I'm right here. Ask me. What do you want? What are you doing? What are you being? What are you having? Talk to me. He's telling you, talk to me. Do you really talk to God, or do you talk at him? Yeah. You're told, go in the closet, close the door, and when you're alone, speak to your Father which is in heaven. How often do you do that? I'll bet you call a friend or a relative many, many, many times. But how often do you go in the closet and talk to God? And when you do, are you really talking to God? Are you? He tells you to do so. It's I am with you always. I'm right here. I'm listening. But I'm you. I am you. I gave you permission, authority. Choose this day. And I suffer with you. You behold me not. God's request is, you turn to me, I'll turn to you. Do so. And do so seriously. I think that just about covers what I'm saying to him all the time, isn't it?
It does. And in talking about asking, you've often said it, you got to think from, not of. When we're asking, far too often we ask from a place of wanting or not having, and then we wonder why we don't have or why we're in want. But we never get into the concept of gratitude and thinking from the experience of what it is that we want. Do you agree?
Look, if you're not saying thank you, Father, at least a dozen times a day, seriously, I mean, come on. If you're with me, I'm with you. If you're not with me, I'm not with you. It's that simple. I mean, it's really that simple. He says, I'm right here with you. If he's right here with you, talk to him. Actually, if you're talking to God, you'll be honest, maybe for the first time. Because actually, we're all liars. I mean, come on. That's how we get in all of our problems in the first place, isn't it?
It is. It is.
We're lying to ourselves. And it becomes really easy. You know, when you see a little child and he looks right at you and says, no, I didn't do that. Right then and there, man, we caught it. And we've been suffering it ever since. But that's what we do. We lie to ourselves a lot. And if you just listen to yourself when you're suggesting to yourself, you would actually hear yourself setting yourself up. When you should be investing self and setting self free. It's all the same talk. Just make it a favorable one rather than a dreaming of monsters, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And let me come back to, he just clarified it, but I think that some of you are going to miss it because I've had people inquire about the lie. If you're acting from a place of less than the Creator, there's no lack in God. God has no lack. So if we're operating from a place of lack, that's the lie. If we say that there's not enough to go around, or that there's no good men out there, there's no good woman, that's the lie. Whenever you're operating from a place of negative self-talk, less than yourself, you're operating from a lie. Would you agree?
That's it. You explained it very, very well. I think that says it all. Actually, when you really start examining self, and you actually see the things that you're involved in mentally, whether you do it or not. We're not talking about that. But just mentally, what you're thinking, feelingly, I'm guilty of everything man is guilty of. No, I didn't say it. I did it. But the point is, if you thought so, the thinking process is what is evaluated when your world is being assembled. And it is being assembled because what has your attention is being made at that moment. But if you shift away quickly, well, then it goes away too. What has your attention has your life. If your attention is focused on lovely and of good report, that's what you're going to be experiencing because you're always thinking ahead of your evidence. So it's so simple, but yet it's very necessary that you focus. It's very necessary that you choose what you're going to be thinking about, not just the thousands and thousands of thoughts a day that they go rambling through, but what catches your attention even for a few moments, or even for a moment, will draw to itself what that one thought represents, and you get caught up in it, and you just go, you're gone. Because the thought grabbed you, and you let it hang on to you. See, it's you choosing this day, not just taking whatever is thrown in your path. You choose. Choose wisely what you're thinking feelingly about, because that is your world of experiencing. And every vision has its appointed hour. And you're having visions all the time. Everybody is, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you were speaking about choosing. In your choosing, choose from your highest place of thought. And what I mean by that, from a place of love. Lindell often says lovely and good report. Often in our choosing, we're choosing from a low state. And what I mean by that, somebody wants to be in a relationship, but as they're manifesting the relationship, they're in a very low state. They're depressed. They're unhappy. So the problem with choosing your ideal mate during that state is that you're going to find to yourself or draw to yourself somebody in that low state. And what happens is when you transcend that state or move from that state to a higher state, that person's no longer going to be somebody that you're attracted to because you chose them at a very low state. Do you agree?
Yeah, sure. That's what Battered Women
Absolutely.
Association is about. Is women who have mindsets that they'll be alone, and that scares them, and so they put up with a lot of nonsense just to be there. And they'd explain it to you much better than I can. But the point is that if you have mindsets, they operate automatically. When a situation comes up, there's an automatic, for every word you say, there's an automatic response by mind. So you're always setting yourself up or setting yourself free. And I mean that actually every day. Every moment, you're thinking feelingly about something. What is that something? You see, because to just turn from all of that and say, well, that's just thinking. But the thing of it is that thinking makes it so. Whatever has your attention long enough becomes a manifestation in your world of experiencing. So if you're dreaming nonsense or monsters, why, you're the one who is the cause of whatever you're experiencing in your world of experiencing. Choose this day is on, and you're on all the time. That's it, isn't it?
It is it. And I wanted to add to, you had mentioned battered women, so we don't want to just say just them. I also want to speak to men who constantly find themselves in relationships where the female or their partner is constantly cheating on them, again, that's because he's going in with the mindset that everyone that I interact with is unfaithful to me.